You know, it's been a huge project of mine, creating a Notion second brain. That's right, we're back in the series where I show you how to make a second brain in Notion. And this video on projects is my secret tip for making well-structured project pages in Notion. Regardless of whether you're following this series or not, it will help you on making your projects just a little bit better in Notion. Just like your entire Notion experience would be a lot better if you check out my course, Mastering Notion on Skillshare. I can't, like every single time. It's funny, I just keep plugging it, and I know it's the first touch point for a lot of people. So like, I'm sorry if you've seen it plugged a million times, but I really want everyone who has the capabilities to just sign up for a free trial on Skillshare, check it out, learn as much as they can about Notion, and enjoy a wonderful app. Jumping right into the system, where we last left off, we worked on our tasks database. But now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna touch on how to incorporate projects into it. So if we go into our backend database page here, we have obviously the projects and tasks that are here. So we're gonna use the projects database. And in this database, what we're first gonna do is make a very similar adjustment to this tag property and call it status, and then change it to a select property. So like with the rest of the properties that we've done in Notion and the rest of the databases, we've had a very similar status property across all of them. So it's essentially a review, active, and archive system so that we make sure that each different part of our system has a very coherent and well-structured system so that like you don't get confused every time you click on a status property. It's gonna make sure it's always review or active or archive. And then we're gonna make the colors the same as what they were before. Now, when you think about projects, they are always gonna have sort of subtasks within them. So the way that we're gonna structure this database is so that we can have subtasks structured inside of the project. But not only that, it's going to refer to all the different important databases that matter. So this is often gonna be things like your resources, which is obviously a big part of this database, your areas, and even your contacts, because those are very important to reference when working in a project if it's with external stakeholders or internal stakeholders as well. So now that we have the status property made, I'm gonna make a couple more properties here so we can do a person property that is called assigned to. And then usually in projects, there is one more distinction. So we're gonna just duplicate this person property, and then we can actually change this name to project manager, because you know, in a lot of situations, someone's managing the project and delegating the tasks, and they're the ones kind of on top of it at companies. And then as you can see from earlier, we actually already have some of these items related to the areas database. So what we can do is add the icons here. So like the areas one is that. And then for this, we also can do a page plus, and then we can change this to a check mark. Now there are a couple different properties that I am going to add in here. And as mentioned in the previous video, we're gonna have a nice progress bar situation occur when it comes to tasks, which I'm very excited for. So next couple of relations we're gonna make are gonna be for the tags database. So we can add this. Now remember, I added that little XX appendage at the end of all of our databases so that we just have a coherent understanding of what the right databases that are going to be related to are going to be, because Notion's a little finicky with naming conventions, especially when you're relating. So change the name to tags, and then this one to projects, then add relations, and then put a little tag right here. And then follow this exact same process for the goals database. Make sure it's the one that has the second brain XX appendage at the end, and then rename it. Make sure it's going both ways by checking this off. Do projects. And then let's type goal or target, I think is what this will be. Exactly, perfect. Now there's only two more properties that we need to make. So one is gonna be a select property that is called project status. So the difference between this and the other status property is the first one, which is the same exact thing for all the other databases, is just to have it showcase on different parts of our system. So we're gonna have like dashboard views, we're gonna have a specific page for projects, and this will allow us to make sure that if we wanna archive the project, it'll archive it from everything. If we wanna have it showing where projects are shown, or if we wanna have it in our inbox, this is sort of that status. Now, the other project status that we're going to make for a select property that's called project status is more so going to be for how far along we are in the project. So let's do not started, in progress. And once again, you just click on it every time and then type in another status and press enter, and then completed, and then on hold. I'm gonna change these colors here to my preference, but you can do whatever you want. Do gray right here. Okay. So the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna use a progress bar. Now this progress bar is going to be a formula, and I'm gonna call it progress bar, and it's gonna be based off of how many subtasks are checked off. So once we open up a new page, we're gonna have all these properties here, and we're gonna add a couple more. So let's just add a URL, let's add a cover image. So we do files and media, and then an image, so like picture. And essentially what that's gonna do is it's going to, once we rename it to cover image, serve as a way to upload a file rather than using like the actual cover image to do better with spacing. When things are in a gallery view, you can choose a file attachment rather than a cover image to showcase what's in there. And this is just a better way to space things out. And you can also just add a basic files and media property here as well. And then we're gonna have a date property. That's gonna be project timeline, which is obviously useful for these sort of things. Then we're gonna add actually one or two more relations here. So we're gonna add a relation to the contacts database so that we can utilize this for referencing contacts. And then once we add this in there, make sure that you change the icon to silhouette. And then two more, which is gonna be a relation to the meetings and notes database. So then we can do projects, meetings and notes, and then add a writing icon here. Then the last relation will be to our journal. So journal, and I'm really excited when we get to that point in the series where I show you that, because that's a wonderful system I created. So we got journal and then projects. Then we can add a little bit of a book icon here. Now what I will recommend that you do is you take these bottom three ones, which is areas, and then show as minimal, and then do the same thing for tags here. So show as minimal, goals, show as minimal, and then follow the same process for cover image and down. We're gonna hide property and always hide. And this is just gonna clean up the workspace a little bit, because all of these are essentially going to be referenced where they need to, either in the project template, which you'll see down below, or in, meetings and notes and the journal itself. So let's just hide these right here. Okay, now I am gonna open this up to more properties and add a few more key ones, which is essentially going to make that progress bar capable. So if we take a look at the tasks database and open up one of these right here, we'll see that, let's say we assign this example project, we assign a task here from there, and then check it off. What we're gonna do is we're essentially gonna take that and do a rollup property and select the tasks database and the status checkbox. And we're gonna go and pick % checked. So what this essentially does, once we rename this really quick, so I'm gonna do sub tasks percentage, is this showcases what percentage of the tasks that we have are associated to it that are checked off. So if I add another one, you'll see it's only 50% are checked off. So then what we're able to do is create a really nice progress bar here that factors this in. So first of all, we're gonna type round. And what round does is it takes the amount of decimal points and rounds it up. And we're gonna have to do something finicky at the end to make sure we get the right number of decimal points for you for it to make sense. So first we're gonna do that round, and then we're gonna do a if, and then parentheses, property, project status. So let's find that project status one here. Okay. If the project status equals, then we're going to pick completed, because that's when in theory this project status is completed, then the progress bar would be done. So that's why we want to put it in there. So then we're going to do if the project status is completed. Remember, commas mean then. So comma, then 1. And then another comma after that will mean else. We'll pick the subtasks percentage. Now we're going to close this off with an extra bracket. And what this essentially means is if the project status is complete, make it 1. If not, pick the subtask percentage. Now we're going to multiply this by 100 and end the bracket, and then divide it by 100. What this does is it factors in the round here to however many zeros you have. So this is gonna be to 2 decimal points. If we did this, it would be more than that. We're gonna just do this many decimal points. I like it to round like this. So when we go to edit property, we're gonna pick this to be a %, and then we're gonna go bar, and then I like making it blue personally, but it's up to you. So now we can see it's at 50%. The reason for this is if we end up adding another task, like record this video, and I didn't have the round, or I showed an example of what it would look like with a lot of decimal points right here. This is what it would look like, but it would get really crazy and go up to like 7, 8 decimals, and we just don't really want that. So that's personally why I like to have it at this standpoint of like just rounding up the last digit here, because it's a percentage. Like we don't need to know that it's point whatever finish for project management. Now you'll see though, when I do make this completed, it also finishes the progress bar so that it would be done rather than us needing to manually check everything off here. So that's a nice thing. And then when you change it to anything else, it will go back to what the subtask percentage is. Now that we've created this really nice database, what we're then gonna do is make sure that we hide this subtask percentage, and we can like slide it up here. And this will just clean things up. Now, the last thing we're gonna do is make a very cool template here. So we're gonna do the new template with the template button, press new template, and then I like to leave it unnamed because when you do, you're able to just have the project be named quickly rather than you having to delete it saying new project and then project again. Put a little wrench icon in here and then go back here really quick and make sure that you click the 3 dots. And then after you click the 3 dots, you're gonna set as default. And then for all projects, for all views in this database. So now every time this would be the default project. Then we can go to the 3 dots again, edit it, and then we're gonna get to work on this. So let's go top right, make this full width. And then what we're gonna do is essentially create a very nice view of all the different things that we related to, right? So if we go back to our home screen here, what we're first gonna do is select this copy and sync and put the synced header at the top so that we're able to easily navigate in and outside of this project with ease. And then I'm gonna do a /column2, and we're basically gonna make a nice grid layout of the different relations we had here. So we can have, I'm gonna just like type some stuff to fill in the slots here. So first we would go to the bottom, drag the block in there, do a little divider, and then we're gonna do some more text. We're gonna do another /column2 and then put text on each side here. Then I'm gonna drag this over to it being like 3/4 of the way down, and we're gonna put a /callout block. I like to change the color to default background, and I'm going to duplicate this and move it around. Now, pro tip, if you hold down Alt and left click and drag, it'll duplicate it like that too. So I can delete these texts, and then you're just gonna follow this structure. So subtasks, and then you can bold it. On the right, we can do meetings and notes, and I like to put them in caps, and then we can do resources and bold it. And then on the bottom left, contacts and bold it. Delete this out. And then obviously it's up to you, but I want to make sure all these icons match, so we can pick the old ones we did before. So like the subtask would be just the check mark, and then the silhouette for the contacts, and the resources for this. So it just has a nice reference point for us. Now what we can do is basically create a layout where any task or meeting note or resource that's related to this project can easily be brought back to here. So if we go to the databases, I know that, for example, actually, let's go to resources first. We could just copy this. So we can press the 6 dots and copy it, and we can paste it below. And after we paste it below, then we can drag it into the callout block. Unfortunately, if you just paste it into the callout block, it'll like break the callout block and it'll delete it. So let's paste it in here. And we're gonna add one very important filter here, which is basically saying like, all right, we can pick pinned or active. It's not a database, or you can actually have the databases here too if you want. And then you can change this to projects, contains, and then we're gonna pick the template. So if we wanna make sure it's the right template, you know, at the start of this process, you can name it something specific, but for me, I know it's the untitled one that has the icon. So then anytime we create a new project using the template, it'll only reference resources that are attached to the project, which is very convenient. And then what I would do is essentially duplicate this one, change this to archived, and then pick archive by going to filter and change this to you know, it is an archived resource. Now we're just gonna follow the exact same process for contacts, subtasks, meetings and notes. Now we'll go into the meetings and notes one and contacts later since we haven't created those yet. So we'll just do the tasks one so far. So good example of this is we can just copy the actions one from here, paste this out, and then drag this into the subtasks. And let's adjust this filter. And the filter we're just gonna adjust it to is the status is unchecked. And you can kind of do a couple different views. So the assigned to contains me, and in this project view, we just add the project contains, and then that specific one right there. And then press save for everyone. So that essentially just made it so that the my tasks view that we can create is gonna have like, what are the tasks that are mine that are, you know, unchecked. And then I'm gonna duplicate this view and then do team tasks and then just basically remove the assigned option. And then you can do the exact same thing, which would be, let's just put people here. So let's add multiple people. Okay, user 3. And then we can duplicate both of these and then remove the status requirement so that it's just like an overview of like tasks in general. So whether they're checked off or not, and then do that same thing for the team tasks. So change this to team task overview and then uncheck the filter or the checked off filter. So we got this, take another view edit really quickly. So it's referencing the right stuff. And now when we go back to the projects database, we make a new project. So test name, we'll see it auto creates it. And then the filters on all of these should be referencing the new project. Now, in order to make a view that's nice, what we're then gonna do is go to the actual projects page that we made. So I'm gonna just copy the link to this view here and then go to the projects page. First of all, we can paste the link to the created database right here. Then I'm gonna drag this over to like make it 2/3, 3/4 of the way. And then I'm gonna copy the link to the page. And just like with what we're doing with this whole system, essentially like paste a little /h2 mention so that it kind of just like looks a little pretty. And then another one I'm gonna do is snag the review page, copy the link to this, do the same h2 mention here. And I'm gonna duplicate this view really quick and make a little list view over here, which is essentially, I'm just gonna rename it to project inbox. And that's gonna take all of your, as you could guess, things on the inbox. So it's gonna be the tray here. And we're just gonna filter this to status is review. This is why we have that across the entire system. So then we can hide this. Then I like making it a list view personally, and we can sort it by, you know, like project timeline or something. So whatever needs to get done first. But this way, anything that is in your review would be showing up here. And then on this side to the left, let's hide this database title and let's adjust this to a board view. And then we can group it by the proper order. So not started would be first, then in progress, completed and hold. So I'm gonna just change this to current projects, have the wrench icon here. And the specific filter we're gonna go for this is the status is active. So essentially not review or not archive, right? And then we can also put an and the project status is not complete, because we're gonna just basically have a view for completed projects and archived ones too. Then we're gonna sort this by project timeline, ascending. And then I personally just like to show a few properties here. So like assigned to, so people can see who is assigned to them. And then we can do a progress bar. So for example, if we just glanced back at the database itself by going here, let's set this example project to like active, so it'll show up here. And I do apologize, I have to put is not completed here. I had that set up wrong. So then now, I'm gonna assign it to me, and we can see this is the vibe. If I move it to on hold, it'll stay here. I'm actually gonna adjust that here. And then once it moves to completed, it's gonna disappear. What we're then gonna do is duplicate this and make a completed project view. So let's make this checked off. And then I'm gonna filter it to, instead of is not completed, is completed, and make it a table view so you have more context of the project. So table view, we can do assign to, and then I like to first always like hide all the properties and then only bring up the ones that matter. So for me, it's like, okay, who was the project for, assigned to, who was the project timeline, what area was it for, and then like maybe the tags of like what it was referencing. So we just have all these in here. And then lastly, we can duplicate the exact same thing and then just do archived projects. So then we can change the archive, and then the filter is just going to be quite literally just the status is archive. So now what we have here is essentially a very easy to use, complete project system connected to your second brain, where you can make a new project on this page. When you open it up, it references all the tasks, all the resources, and eventually all the contacts and meeting notes that you need in an entire system like this. And you even have an inbox for projects that you haven't quite started the process of even planning out yet. With this series, I know it can be a little bit monotonous, and I'm just kind of telling you sort of what to do. So I've tried to add more color as to why you'd add any of this stuff in there. And hopefully that will help you in your progress towards building a second brain in Notion. Just like this video will help you improve your productivity even more.